Hey friends, hey friends, this is Jim with Science Talk. I have something that's really exciting to share with you guys. Basically, this is of an incredible fossil find that occurred in Alberta in a basically tar pit, and it's that of a nodosaur. Now, a nodosaur is one of the groups of armored dinosaurs. It was ancestral to the ankylosaurs. And you might know the ankylosaurs, right? The big lumbering things with the armor and the spikes and the big club at the end of their tail that can crack open just about any skull that made the mistake of getting near there. Um, this is an incredible find because we're seeing not just the skin, but the guts were preserved internally. So I'm just going to run through. I've got some really nice photos to share with you. So I'm just going to run through these with you. I'm going to share some of these fine. What we're looking at here is you can see this part of the skull right here. So this is Western Canada. A flooded river basically swept it out into the open sea, and it got uh, buried and preserved straight away. And as you can see here, this is part of its armor. Very nice detail, very nicely preserved. Should be noted that the part of Canada where this is found was a very different ecosystem back then than it is now. It wasn't the typical cold, snowy winters, but was lush, tropical, warm, and also you have to take into account plate tectonics, where it was located all those hundreds of millions of years ago. So we have very nice. This is an actual photograph. Wonderful specimen here. And it took some time to dig it out because it was found accidentally by miners, whatever. And so they had to dig it out in the complete block of tar, what have you, that was found in. It was brought to the Royal Tyrrell Museum in Drumheller, Alberta, which is a major paleontological institution, one of the biggest on the planet. And they've been working on it. It was found in like 2011. It took all this time to carefully remove it from its what it was found in. And my understanding is they've done some CT scans where you can see some of the internal organs. This is a really incredible find and important. So this is an artist's conception of what it would look like. You can see, basic tail here. You can see it looks a lot similar to, here's that part of the skull right there, right? And and if you look here, right, you can see all the armor here. There's some big shoulder spikes there. Now, to give you an idea, this creature is about 18 feet, about 5.5, 6 meters in length. So it was big. And these spikes here were about 2 feet long. So they were something to contend with. And I've got a photo showing a spike. That's pretty cool. So here's an example. 18 feet long, 3,000 pounds. And we can see some more of the fossilized skin. And here's some cross section. I think these little brown spots are looking at the ends of bones. Okay. And a cluster of pebble-like masses may be remnants of the Nodosaur's last meal. So that's probably what there was. I know there's a photo in here later on that shows these sort of like brown colored things to be bones. So this is probably what it might have ingested. Okay, so let's see what's next here. Okay, this is the technician, Mark Mitchell. He's slowly getting the foot out of the matrix that it was found. This is very tedious, painstaking work using micro chisel. You don't just sit there and bash it out with a hammer and a big old woodworker's chisel, but using micro chisel and dentist picks to carefully remove the rock, the sandstone from the actual specimen. Because don't forget, especially with the bones, bones become rocks. The bones get replaced by other minerals. So very painstaking work to get fossil specimens out of the whatever matrix they're found in. So during its burial at sea, the Nodosaur settled onto its back, pressing the dinosaur skeleton into the armor and embossing it with the outlines of some bones. One ripple in the armor traces the animal's right shoulder blade. Basically, looking at this here. Right here, looks like what we can see is the shoulder blade. And this might be the infra and supraspinatus fossae, I think. We can see some of the armor skin here. And yeah, this looks like this is probably the shoulder blade, the scapula. Armored dinosaurs' trademark plates usually scattered early in decay, which fortunately did not happen with this specimen. Well, because this specimen maintained its armor, it will help paleontologists further understand more of the Nodosaur and extrapolate to other armored dinosaurs. So then how do we know that, if the plates scatter, how do we know they were there in the first place? We can see depressions, grooves, indentation on the bone where there would be some attachment for such structures. You're looking at, say, fish scales, for example, we can actually see indentations in the skin where the scales are actually are inserted. So there are things to look for that will tell us the presence of such structures. This here, okay, this is the looking at the left shoulder spike. A break in the Nodosaur's left shoulder spike reveals a cross section of its bony cord. It's right here. The spike's tip was sheathed in keratin. Keratin is the same material that makes up your fingernails, your hair, the horn of rhinos. It's keratin. It's a structural protein. Now, what will be really interesting is if they were to do cross sections of the bone, you might be able to ascertain the density of what's called haversian canals, or at least what's called the osteons. Now, these are, if you look at a cross section of a bone, you'll see what's called concentric lamellae, and the little spaces in there called lacuna where an osteocyte, bone cell, would reside. Typically, in the center of the osteon was a cavity where a blood vessel would be found. The density of how many osteons per unit area, the density would indicate the metabolic rate of the organism. So the more osteons you have per unit area, that means there's more blood vessels indicating a higher rate of metabolism. Less density, lower rate of metabolism, the organism might be, what's called a poikilotherium, basically cold-blooded, so to speak, that wait for the sun to warm it up, like turtles and those things. And so there'd be a lot more matrix material in the bone than osteons. So the osteons, the greater the density, the more homeothermic the organism would be. And so that'll be interesting to see, because there's thinking now that many dinosaurs, especially now that we know they were ancestral to birds, were most likely warm-blooded. Oh yeah, this is on the Nodosaur's torso. The chocolate brown ribs, that's this right here. Okay. That's the way to describe it. Lies next to the tan osteoderms. Osteo means bone, derms means skin. Okay, and dark gray scales. Okay, so here we have, this is the tan bit. Here's the brown right here. That's the ribs. This is the osteoderms, and then we have the dark gray scales. Tendons that once held up the dinosaur's tail at the top run alongside its spine, preserving its dark brown bands. And it looks like jerky. That's this right in here. So we're seeing bone, osteoderm, and then the scales. And the scales are most likely going to be derived from the osteoderms. So this is a really cool find. And just wanted to share this with you. Kind of a change of pace from the other videos we've been doing. And it'll be exciting to see what the paleontologists learn as they examine this specimen. Anyway, I want to thank you for your time, and we'll talk soon. Hey folks, this is Jim here reminding you to subscribe to this channel, to share my videos, tell others of the work that I do here. I also ask that if you are not already a patron at Patreon, to please consider becoming a patron at Patreon. You can find the information in the description box below the video. I'm asking you to help support the work that I do. I do not take any money from corporations or from any other sources, so the information I share with you is the actual science as it comes out of the peer-reviewed journals. So there is no BS, there's no propaganda, there's no agenda. It's just I present the science and I explain to you what it means, or at least my interpretations of it, based on my own experience as a scientist. I want this channel to grow. I consider, while I discuss many different topics here, you notice I do focus a lot on climate issues. I consider climate change to be the most pressing issue facing humanity today. Thus, I consider it important to disseminate this information to a wider and wider, more and more people. And I need your help to do this. So, yes, please subscribe. Please tell others of the work that I do here. Please share my videos on social media platforms, with your social media groups, what have you. We need to get this information out there. So for those of you who are supporting me on Patreon, I thank you greatly for your support and continued support. It does mean a lot to me. So together we can get this information to more and more people. Thank you. Thank you for your support.